You are in Athens. Not the Athens of philosophy lectures and gleaming marble. The real one, 450 BC, where a full third of the 300,000 people around you are legally classified as property, and not one of them is expecting a stranger with no name, no money, and no working Greek to appear on their street without explanation. The Parthenon is still under scaffolding up on the hill. The air smells like a livestock auction that lost badly. And somewhere across this city, a disease is moving through the population that will kill 1 in 4 people before it burns itself out. You have been standing still for about 30 seconds. People are starting to notice. Can you make it through a single day here, or is this already over? You are about to find out. The first thing you process is the smell, not in any romantic sense. In the sense of something biological and immediate and deeply unpleasant, the smell of 300,000 people sharing a city with no sewage infrastructure and an extremely casual relationship with waste management. Every workshop, every household, every animal in the agora contributes to this. Your nose objects. Athens does not care. The Acropolis is unmistakable on the horizon, sitting on its limestone plateau like it owns everything around it, which it essentially does. The Parthenon scaffolding catches the morning sun, and from up there you can hear hammering and the faint sound of several hundred workers being paid considerably less than the job deserves. You know where you are. That's the complete inventory of useful information you currently possess. Your clothes are wrong. Your posture is wrong. The slight forward hunch you've carried since your teenage years, the phone neck that no person in 450 BC has any reason to recognize, reads as bizarre in a city where physical bearing is a social signal. Every person who passes you does a small involuntary double take. You have been in Athens for 90 seconds. You have already become a point of concern. The man nearest to you is broad, weathered, carrying an enormous clay vessel without appearing to notice its weight. You approach, you smile, you deploy the international tourist gesture of pointing at yourself and looking apologetic. He stops. He starts to speak. What comes out is nothing like you expected. Ancient Greek, specifically the Attic dialect of classical Athens, carries pitch accents, vowel lengths, and tonal inflections that no modern language has preserved intact. It is not the Greek of Greek restaurants or the Greek letters on a university building. It is something older and stranger, and it is coming at you at full conversational speed. Your brain produces nothing useful in response. You try gesturing, you mime eating, you hold your hands up in what you intend as a universal signal of harmlessness, which in 450 BC reads as either threatening or the opening of a religious ritual you haven't been cleared to perform. The man takes a step back. A small crowd forms. A market stall vendor calls something over his shoulder. 2 large men turn around. This is not going well. Here is the problem with being an unregistered foreigner in classical Athens. The city has a formal category for you, and it is not flattering. Non-Athenian free residents were classified as medics, metoikoi in the official terminology, and while medics could live and work in the city, they had no legal standing whatsoever without a registered citizen sponsor called a prostates. You have no sponsor, no verifiable name, no deme registration, which was the Athenian equivalent of an address, a tax record, and a permission slip combined. You are outside the system entirely, and in a city that ran entirely on documentation, being outside the system was not an inconvenience. It was an open invitation. A city official has noticed the scene you've created. He speaks. You don't understand. He speaks louder, which also doesn't help because volume was never the problem. 2 more men appear. You attempt an explanation in a language nobody present speaks. And all 3 of them look at you the way a border agent looks at someone who has just opened 17 unmarked bags and asked if this is going to be an issue. It is. Within minutes, you've been taken somewhere you didn't choose to go. Now let's talk about the system that just swallowed you, because understanding it is the only resource you have left. Athenian society operated on rigid classification. Citizenship sat at the top, restricted to Athenian-born men of free birth, registered to a local dem, enrolled in a phratry, and definitively male. That covered roughly 30,000 to 50,000 people out of a total population of 300,000. Between 10 and 17% of everyone living in Athens had any political power at all. They were the only men who could vote, hold office, own land outright, or bring a legal case in their own name. You are not them. Below the citizens sat the medics, the craftsmen, merchants, skilled laborers, and traders who kept the city actually functioning. They built the ships, ran the workshops, staffed the financial markets, and generated the commercial economy that funded the democracy above them. In return, they could not own land, could not vote, could not appear in court without a citizen sponsor, and paid a monthly tax called the metoikion. Miss the payment, and you could be sold into slavery. Athens was very consistent on this point. Then came the freedmen, former slaves who had saved enough across years of labor to purchase their freedom. They held roughly the same legal position as medics, which is to say almost none. Free, technically, landless, voteless, and invisible to the machinery of power. Then came the slaves. Somewhere between 80,000 and 100,000 enslaved people living in Attica at this moment, roughly a quarter to a third of everyone here. Acquired through warfare, purchased from Mediterranean traders, or born into it. They did everything from domestic service to banking to teaching. Athens even staffed its public police force with publicly owned slaves. You could be detained by someone with fewer legal rights than you. In your current situation, this raises an interesting question about how few rights a person can possess before the concept stops meaning anything. You are about to find out empirically. The legal process, conducted entirely in Attic Greek at full conversational speed, takes approximately 90 seconds. Your assets are noted. Your situation is assessed. The assessment concludes. The Laurian silver mines in southern Attica were the primary engine of Athenian wealth. The silver there financed the navy, which financed regional dominance, which financed the democracy the top 15% found so deeply satisfying. This was accomplished by sending an estimated 10,000 to 20,000 enslaved workers into shafts cut hundreds of feet into solid earth, lit by small clay lamps producing just enough light to see the rock directly in front of your face and nothing else. The tunnels were narrow. Workers in the deepest sections operated crouching or lying flat on their backs. Ventilation was poor in the way a sealed container is poor. The heat from thousands of working bodies and open flames had nowhere to go. You swing a pickaxe in a low stone corridor, breathing air that has already been processed by everyone around you. And you are pulling rock dust into your lungs with every breath, quietly, in quantities that won't announce themselves for several months and will then be very loud about it. The lead ran alongside everything else. The ore at Laurian contained significant lead alongside the silver, and smelting dust contaminated the air at every level of the operation. Chronic lead poisoning was effectively standard for long-term workers. The fatigue, the cognitive dulling, the joint deterioration that the ancient world had no name for but absolutely experienced. Modern skeletal analysis from the region confirms what common sense suggests. Life expectancy at Laurian was short. You have been here 4 days, and you are already revising several assumptions. This is when the coughing starts, not yours. Not yet. The man beside you in the shaft, lean and mostly quiet, has been producing a wet, deep rattle from somewhere in his chest since yesterday morning. Everyone around him is choosing not to hear it the way you choose not to hear a strange noise from your car when you can't afford to deal with it. But you are hearing it, and you recognize the sound. Infectious disease in classical Athens was not a background inconvenience. The city was dense. Sanitation was catastrophic. People arrived constantly from across the Mediterranean carrying diseases the local population had limited immunity to. Standard killers included typhoid, dysentery, and tuberculosis. For serious cases, the Hippocratic physicians, who were real practitioners and genuine observers, recommended rest, fresh air, and careful diet. For the most severe cases, they recommended bloodletting, on the sound theory that sick blood was the problem and therefore less blood was the solution. You are currently at full blood levels. The local physician considers this a workable situation, but the man beside you doesn't have tuberculosis. He has the plague, the actual one. The plague of Athens, documented by Thucydides with enough clinical precision that epidemiologists are still arguing about its exact identity in 2025. The primary outbreak hit the city in 430 BC, 20 years before your current position, which should put you safely clear of it. But history doesn't always file its paperwork on time. A smaller secondary wave, poorly documented, has found this particular shaft, and the man beside you is its most committed case study. The initial outbreak killed roughly 75,000 to 100,000 people, 1 in 4. Thucydides caught it, survived, and wrote down what it felt like with uncomfortable specificity. Fever, eye inflammation, throat bleeding, spreading ulceration across the skin, convulsions, and whatever came after the convulsions, which for most people was nothing at all. No treatment worked. The physicians documented everything and cured essentially nothing. People who nursed the sick got sick. People who kept their distance got sick anyway. The disease moved without preference through a city that had no real quarantine mechanism beyond the general social awareness that proximity to sick people was a terrible idea, which everyone understood and almost nobody could act on. You are standing 4 feet from this man. You start moving away. The shaft is narrow. 10 other workers stand between you and the exit, and several of them are coughing at what sounds like various stages of the same fundamental problem. You have been here 4 days. You have been breathing this air, sleeping within arm's reach, eating from communally distributed rations. The incubation window for most of what could be killing the man beside you runs between 2 and 6 days. You do the math. The math is not reassuring, but here is where luck appears for the first time since you arrived. Your vaccinations. Modern immunization addresses diseases that had no clinical classification in the ancient world, which means whatever is moving through this tunnel has almost certainly already tested your immune system and found the door occupied. This is not a guarantee. It's closer to arriving somewhere dangerous and finding out that someone capable was already inside. It may save you, or it may simply change the specific shape of how things eventually go wrong. Either way, you are the only person in this shaft who is not currently symptomatic, and the supervisor notices. A healthy, productive worker has extractable value. In the Lorien system, that translates to exactly one outcome: reassignment to surface operations. The air up here tastes like burning ore and lead residue, but you can see the sky. Seeing the sky is the first development you would classify as positive since arriving in Athens 6 days ago, and you are not taking it for granted. Surface work is still brutal, still involuntary, but more loosely supervised than the tunnels below. Loose supervision is opportunity, and opportunity is the first resource you have encountered in ancient Athens that isn't actively trying to end you. You spend 2 days watching the perimeter. The southern edge of the complex runs alongside a dry ravine used for water transport. The main entrance has guards. The ravine does not. Workers move in and out of it throughout the day, and nobody counts the return line with any real precision, because who counts exhausted laborers in detail when there are 10,000 of them? On the third morning of surface work during a water run, you go south instead of back. Nobody shouts immediately. You do not wait around to verify whether that remains the case. You walk at the pace of someone with documented authorization to be there. The coast road appears after 20 minutes. You take it north. Somewhere behind you, a supervisor will eventually count heads and find the number short by 1. You intend to be well outside the relevant jurisdiction when that conversation happens. The walk takes the rest of the day. No money, no legal standing. 6 days of mine work pressed into your clothes and your skin, announcing your presence well before you arrive anywhere. Your sandals are coming apart in a serious way. You have not eaten a full meal since day one. You are, by any honest measure, in considerably worse shape than when you first appeared on the street, which is a remarkable achievement given that you were in custody within 2 hours of arrival. Athens comes into view at dusk. The Acropolis catches the last light along its limestone edge. The Parthenon scaffolding throws long shadows down the hillside, and the smell of the city reaches you before anything else does. The same combination of salt and olive oil and animal waste and compressed human life that hit you the moment you landed. Somehow, across 6 days of systematic dismantling, it has become a smell you recognize. You know this city now. It has processed you thoroughly and returned you reduced. That's a form of knowledge that nobody planned for you to have. Your feet find the street on their own. The market stall is in roughly the same position as the day you arrived. You approach. You hold out your empty hand. The merchant looks at your hand, looks at your face, looks at your hand. He calls something over his shoulder. 2 large men turn around. Some things in Athens, it turns out, are perfectly consistent.